about to go downtown.
Downtown, hey!
Downtown. You about to go downtown.
Trying to compete. So good morning, good afternoon, good night, and welcome to another week's episode of Downtown World. Don't waste no time with negativity. And today we have in the building none other than singer, songwriter, entrepreneur, Black King, Ross Victory. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I love that intro.
You're welcome. I'm seeing that the haircut is on point.
Hey.
You know, you got a nice sweater on today. How are you feeling?
I'm good. You know, I'm one of those people where I try to wake up in a vibe, get some dance music going, try to feel good, look good. I think it's all kind of related to how your day is, and I'm on the West Coast, so we're just getting started. It's 10 a.m. So I have a long day. Yeah.
Facts. Well, here in Toronto, it's about early afternoon, but
okay.
I know that a lot of us are still recovering from the recent verses that just happened with Fat Joe and Ja Rule. So I was definitely in tune to that. So I'm curious to know, what kind of dance music is it that you like bumped today or like recently?
And that's crazy because I was working last night. I didn't even catch that versus. Was it last night?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was working till like almost 12. But lately I've been feeling a lot of like Kid, Nigerian pop, like the Afro beat. For some reason, it's all just feel good kind of. I don't know. Do you like
It's an amazing energy. And like in Toronto, it's already like something that I feel like it's new to the world, but it's something that's always kind of like been around because the African culture is really big out here. Shout out to everyone. And Caribbean cultures, a lot of people know. So
yeah,
like that sound is like really popular and like it's a whole vibe. It's not too far from dancehall music too, which I love, which is kind of, so Burna Boy, all of that, bring it on.
Yeah. And it's crazy because, it almost puts you in a vibe, especially if you're in your headphones, like walking, it just puts you in a vibe that is just, it just feels good. And so I like to wake up to that most days.
I love that. Interestingly enough, I'm reading a book right now, and currently the part I'm in the book at is how important the morning routine is, or kind of like setting your day. And with setting your day or being prepared in your morning, that way with the days you have, like the hours you have left in the day, you have more time to really like gravitate and flow throughout the day without figuring out what you're doing in the morning, which that alone takes away time that you could have saved had you have like kind of have a morning routine and prep for your morning. So good stuff.
No, that's real facts right there. And I mean, I totally agree. Like your routine, and something I've been trying to work on too is just like what little attitudes or habits can I establish, and just put into place. So every day it's like a habit to focus on, that meditation music, whatever, that feel good music, hydration. I mean, it's all related, right?
It's all related, for real. So let everyone know a bit about yourself, because you're a man in many hats, but I love the versatility that you bring and just like being yourself, and you're not afraid to like put your art out there and leave it for us to like critique. So let everyone know a bit about yourself.
Okay. Yeah. And it's been a journey to get to that place, but yeah, so as you mentioned in the intro, Ross Victory, singer, songwriter, author, Black King. That was my favorite little thing, like Black King.
Yes, you are.
And yes, and I've been, so I published my first book in 2019 called Views from the Cockpit. Views from the Cockpit is a father-son memoir that I wrote to kind of memorialize my dad, but also talk and focus a little bit on the father-son relationships, especially as like Black men, relationships with our fathers. What does like healthy emotions look like? Family secrets look like? All of that. And so I take the readers on a journey. So the title is Views from the Cockpit. One of our pastimes was watching airplanes. So I take the readers on a similar type of airplane journey, as far as like taking off and turbulence and then safe landing and different things like that. So that was my first entry to kind of the public space in 2019. And after that, it's like, it's crazy when you take one leap of vulnerability. And I didn't talk like this like 5 years ago about
I'm with
vulnerability.
you.
Yeah, like vulnerability and emotion. But it's crazy because when you practice it, either through writing or through whatever, being authentic, it kind of opens other doors in your life and personally. So after I wrote that book, I was like, you know what? I really used to enjoy singing and songwriting like years ago. So I got back into that, into the studio, working on tracks. Earlier this year, I got to meet one of my idols, Neo, on Instagram Live. Yes.
So,
and that was awesome.
that's
He
crazy.
contributed
How
his
was that?
voice.
Because people don't
Yeah, that
understand, not to like interject in the question, but like we'll actually circle back to it, continue. But I
okay, okay.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, so we were working on track. I had this track, and yeah, got a chance to meet Neo and Instagram Live. He agreed to put the track on one of, he does he supports a lot of independent artists, so he
He
agreed
does.
to put that track on one of his projects. And so yeah, I've just been, step by step doing the best that I can. What I'm working on now is kind of just a apparel type of lifestyle brand for book and music lovers. So since I'm an author and musician, I've also realized there's a lot of people out there who like reading and like,
Yes.
waking up on good vibes. And so, yeah, I'm just putting it out there, like you said, showing the world what I got. I just want to be responsible for my own type of personal legacy. And I think I can do more as long as I'm being loud and stuff about what I got. I think I'm participating at least.
I love that. I love that. And it is so important, especially like it's not that I didn't love books, but it was just to sit down and reading part to like be present enough to read, because that's something people don't really like talk about. If you have a lot going on in your mind, it's kind of hard to sit there and just read a book. So what made
Yeah.
you realize that gap and like how important bridging those two things work together, being the music artistry and the love of reading?
What made or helped me bridge the gap is I after the loss of my dad, so what prompted the book writing was the loss of my dad. And during that healing journey, grief journey, and grief is crazy because it affects your body and it does different things to you. I got into therapy. And so I try to be vocal about counseling and therapy just because, again, like I saw my dad and my brothers, how they handled their mental and physical health. Like we could just do better
We could do better.
ourselves. Yeah, we could
Yeah,
do
we
better
could do
as
better,
ourselves,
period.
a community, as men. It's a mess. So that got me back in touch just with my childhood and kind of like what actually brings you joy. And so looking back at joy, talking to like my grandma, my mom, you used to do this. This made you so happy. And so it's
Yeah.
really just focusing on like, I was a nerd. Like I used to collect library cards. I liked being at the library. So
I think
just
you're
getting
still a
back,
nerd, Ross.
I am low key. I am, and I wear it proudly. I'm a
We're
nerd. I
proudly,
love
we're
it.
nerding out here. We're it proudly.
We nerdy. We are nerdy full time. And so it's just being honest with that and getting back in touch with it. Like, you
Yeah.
can read books, go to the library and bump to like you said, Burner Boy. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
seriously. And I feel like somewhere in there in our melanin experience, it's like as soon as you hear these arrangements of like instruments, I don't know for you, I'm an avid like music lover, not just like surface level. So I just feel like the spirituality around it too. Like even how you see how people will move, rest in peace of Michael K. Williams that just passed away, but he was known by a lot of people for like doing a lot with dance, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
he loved dance, and you could see like no matter what Black people for whatever parts of the world, for some reason when we hear those instruments and those alignments, it sounds like it
It
brings
activates.
out, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the word right there, it activates for real. So before I get to Neo, I want to dig a little bit
Yeah.
deeper with you just in terms of vulnerability. And I know today is about you and you guys are going to get to know Ross, but you're going to get to know Ross in my way. And we're going to have an amazing conversation because I love when Black men, especially Black men, shout outs to everyone, but are able to speak on these things and be comfortable about it because it's so important. And if I had seen like the men around me, i.e. my uncles, older cousins, things like that, maybe things, you know, as you said, we could do better. So this, I feel like our generation, these times are the start of us doing better. So also, it's ironic that you brought up vulnerability like that, because the other show that I do, Eat Fruit Pod, as you know, Eat Fruit, Mind Your Business, we just literally did an episode on vulnerability. And the question was raised to say, do you see vulnerability as a good thing or a bad thing? How do you think?
Oh, yeah. You know, it takes practice. So 5 years ago, 6 years ago, before I started on this journey, I would think that it was like, it just didn't make sense. It didn't click. Like, why would you want to be vulnerable, tell your story, and let people know deep, like, challenges that you have? Like, it didn't click. Like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to speak to a counselor about your issues? Why would you want to pay someone to listen to you? Like, it just didn't click. So I thought at first, yeah, it was like, that's whack, you know, it's bad, whatever. But I think now it's kind of like the horse and the water situation. Like, you can bring the horse the water, but you can't make them drink. And like, that's real. And all these cliche like phrases,
But
they really
so
hit
real.
hard after after such like experiences. And I think people like, it was just a triggering. It's just to where life forced me to surrender to that whole idea. And I had no choice but to try something. Like, I really had no choice but to try something different. And so I was like, okay, let's try this whole vulnerability thing. And it was painful. And even now, sometimes that stuff that I share online or that I post, I'm like, is it too much? But as long as it's being authentic and I'm honoring my truth, I have to trust the process and commit to it. You know, it's hard though. It's really hard.
It is. And without even knowing, you know what I mean? That's a part of that light work. And you are, I would consider being a light worker out there in terms of like what you are doing and advocating, even if you don't feel you are representing that, right? Other young people or people in general. Like, even today I was taking a walk, and, you know, school has started back here, mostly in Toronto. So the kids, it was their lunchtime, and I seen like this homeless man, and the young kids that we usually will see, the teenagers, like, teenagers are so wild, like, just go back in school. Like, this little boy brought, well, he was a teenager, but to me, little boy, he walked over to the homeless man and he gave him, you know, his Popeyes. And I was like, I love that. We need more of that. And I have full hope in this generation coming. It just looks different, and it shouldn't look the same. So we shouldn't be afraid. We should be happy that things don't look the same, and they're continuing to elevate along, like, with our mindset and things like reading, which we need to advocate more and more of, but it does that. Reading does that. If you could recommend some books, I know I'm kind of just putting you on the spot, but you feel like really opened up that mindset for you, helped you elevate, besides the ones that you've written, because I definitely need to purchase those. But put us on game. What are some books that you would say this will help to?
Yeah, I think one that was kind of pivotal in my kind of process, and it's a really short one. It's called The Mastery of Self. And it's by Don Miguel Ruiz, and it's really short. Like, you could read it on a bus ride. Like, even if you just decide, you know, okay, I'm gonna do a little staycation day trip to the beach, wherever you are in the country, it's that short. But really what he talks about is going to a party, and he talks about the different people on the party. So he talks about people who are on the wall, people who are drunk in the middle dancing, people who are kind of watching and taking scope. And so he helps you identify who you are at the party to kind of draw that self-awareness. And I thought it was, I think it's a good first step, because I think the first step is awareness, right? That you're alive, that you have a purpose, that you have a mission, that you have a voice, that you have a story. Yeah, that's the first step. So I think once you can say, oh, I matter, I think everything else maybe falls in line. But I think that's a really good one to start with.
I love that.
Yeah. Mastery of Self. Yeah.
Do you have one more? I'm squeezing it out.
I mean, I have one. I mean, I don't want to promote too much of myself, but I have
No,
one coming
definitely.
out.
That's what it's all about
Yeah,
today.
yeah. It's and this one was inspired by a lot of other books that I have read. This one is called "Your Story Is Your Clout, Your
I
Voice
love
Is
the
Your Power."
cover.
Oh, thank you.
I love the
Creative
cover.
writing meets self-help. So this is for those people who have a story, but maybe feel skeptical about therapy. They feel skeptical about strangers. And so I talk about how creative writing, kind of like how we've been talking about, right?
Yeah.
How creative writing can be a very good first step in self-help journaling, you know, giving yourself. So for example, who are the people who have hurt you? Have we ever written a list? What did
Mm,
they, you know what I mean? Like, who are the
mm,
people that you feel have hurt you? Let's write a
yeah.
list and let's write what
Yeah.
they did. And yeah, and this is private. You don't have to reveal it. And so this book, it implements quotes from Maya Angelou, all my favorites, like
I love
the
that.
gentleman I was talking to you about from philosophers. It's really short, but Your Story is a Clout would be my book number two.
No, I love that. I love that. You're giving a lot of fruit. Here we say eat fruit, mind your business. You're giving a lot of
Yeah,
fruit today and appreciate it very much. You know, when we think
yeah,
about when we think about now what we aspired to be in life when we were young, right? When I was young, I wanted to
yeah.
be everything that looked lit. I was like, I want to be a firefighter. I want to be on the stage accepting Oscars. I want to do this. I want to do that. What did you want to be when you were growing up, Ross?
Oh, what did I want to
Be
be?
honest.
Be honest. Okay, so since we've established I'm a nerd.
Yes.
So my parents in first grade used to dress me up in like a little suit with a plastic briefcase. And all just I mean, and you could think of going to the school, like, why is
Why
he
does this
coming?
kid have a suit on?
And
But that was
so
Ross. He was out
that's
here.
me. That's me. And my mom was like, you would open up your little plastic briefcase and have your pens and your things and like pretend writing checks and stuff. So I wanted to be like
Yes.
this
Ross
business,
the
like
boss.
Ross the boss. Yeah. So I had in my mind, like, I wanted to be that just some type of business person because my parents named me. So my full name is J. Ross Victory. They said they wanted me to be a lawyer or something, but
Oh,
I felt inclined to like business and pretend writing checks and trying to
yeah.
sell whatever I could out of my,
Briefcase.
room. Yeah, out of my
Yeah.
briefcase. Yeah. So just
I
business.
love
Yeah.
it. I love it. So then what made you discover your love of music and like who inspired you to get into start creating?
Yeah. So music, I think probably started in childhood going to church, just being around, like you said, those instruments and those different rhythms that just activate uh, the movement. But like my personal relationship with music is related to just the whole writing. So, and I
Mm,
sometimes I ask my engineer at my studio, I'm like, I don't know if I'm a singer. Like I feel more like songwriter. And that's why
mm,
like people like Neo, Bruno Mars, any artist that can write their own stuff, like I really respect them just because I feel like that's an interesting line to kind of toe. But I felt like songwriting was my was kind of like my safe haven, like stories and poems and just, writing songs. And then the music part of it, like the singing or the expression of it, I feel like that just came later with practice and as a result of like church and talent shows. Music.
yes.
Okay.
So you can just pick up and I will like get in between or I can ask another
Okay.
question. Up to you.
Okay. Okay. No, what got me into music? I feel like it all started with like just songwriting. So I feel like I've always naturally been drawn to writing, journals, poems, like uh, just anything. And I think the songwriting meshed with like the childhood church upbringing, talent shows. I think that just
Yeah.
kind of turned into, yeah, the musical artist. Because sometimes I'm in the studio and I ask my engineer all the time, I'm like, you know what? Like sometimes I was like, I don't know if I'm a singer. Like I like to songwrite. And that's why I respect artists like Neo, Bruno Mars, The Weeknd, who can
Amazing
kind of toe,
writers.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're writers and they toe that line and they're able to deliver it vocally. So Yeah.
So would you say those are the artists that like kind of inspired you to get into it? But if you could dial it back, because I know The Weeknd is more recent than who would have been able to inspire
Right.
us coming up. But who are some of those artists that you feel like are those first sounds you remember hearing? Like, because similar to myself, it was a lot of gospel. My mom, you know, born and raised Pentecostal church. So like a lot
Okay.
of like Shirley Caesar, George Banton, all of that stuff,
Mm.
because the Caribbean type Christian music as well. And then when
Yeah.
I got older, you know, obviously we're into our Kirk Franklin and Marvin Sapp, Fred Hammond, etc. So who are some of the people for you? And it doesn't have to be gospel, but like that inspired you to be like, you know what, music is something I definitely want to dig a little bit deeper
Yeah.
into.
Yeah, for sure. In LA, we have this station called 94.7 The Wave. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Maybe you have.
Yeah.
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 But my parents all the time had that on. And at the time, it was Babyface. He occupied that space of singer songwriter, Babyface, Tony Braxton. So he was writing a lot of, I like writing all of her songs and writing from other artists. And I was like, who's this guy? I mean, yeah, he sings, but his writing game is just
He's
like
out. Yeah.
everywhere. Yeah. And so it's the Baby Faces, the Anita Bakers, and all of those artists that I grew up on. And then I had a little bit of the Boys to Men kind of transition into what is it, the early 2000s, late 90s.
I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, when you think of people like Babyface, Quincy Jones, like their pens are like insane. Like they're your favorite, like on all
Yeah.
aspects. So I was listening to a recent interview with an artist and they were speaking on it was why is it slipping me now? But it was a female artist, R&B artist. Oh, I'm so mad I'm slipping her name. But she was basically discussing, they were at, oh, 7th Streeter. There we are. She was on
Okay.
the Joe Budden podcast. And they were just asking her in terms, because she songwrites as well. And her pen game is super heavy. And they were asking her, like, in terms of giving out music, how do you know kind of like what to keep for yourself? And like, how does that work hearing someone else kind of like sing these words that you know where they came from? And she was just kind of explaining how it's therapeutic and kind of like a relief that she could try kind of just write it like a diary entry, put it out there, and she doesn't have to keep not necessarily reliving it, but re-sing it, give it to someone else, and she's been able to like get that out as a release, similar to like therapy and stuff. Do you
Yeah.
find like you have the similar opinions in regards to writing for others, or like what is your perspective on that? Are you ever mad you gave someone something, or like
You know, what's crazy is I completely agree with her perspective. I mean, I've definitely felt that with books. I definitely feel the whole release, it's out. There was an artist maybe a few years ago, independent artist. I was working with on one of my songs, and she um, just did the background. So she like learned the lyrics and did the background. And hearing her sing it, and and hearing her share the emotion, it was like I was in the studio just kind of like tripped out, like, dang, she's singing my song.
yeah.
And this is something I wrote, this song from something that I know, but she's
Oh,
singing it as if she knows it. And so I mean, that is the power
ooh,
of music, right?
facts,
That's what it is.
facts.
Yes.
It's powerful for sure, for sure. So we have a staple question here at Downtown World that we ask all of our guests, right?
Okay.
What is a
Yeah.
situation where it was definitely negative, but somehow, some way, you found a way not to waste any time at negativity?
Ooh. I think it would have to be just with job situations,
Mm,
you know, in employment, and knowing when to stop and knowing when to walk away and not engage anymore. I mean, I've had several jobs, and what it's just like toxic environment. I mean, processes are toxic, coworkers are toxic, managers are toxic, and hours and just how you're working. And it's like, you know what, I can't continue coming to this environment, because now, like we've talked about, it's putting my health at risk, putting my mental health at risk. I can't sleep. I'm eating a whole bunch of crap. So yeah, it's knowing when to
facts.
walk away and to quit kindly, I think. And we could even say in relationships too, it's knowing when to say, you know what, there's no future here. There's more bad than good, and walk away. And that's a skill, because sometimes we think we deserve that, or we can't do any better than, some type of employment situation or negative situation. But you gotta, that, at least for me, it's been a lot of job situations, just saying, you know what, I can't be here. It's not healthy.
Yeah. And I'm not thankful, but thankful at the same time that this whole panini that we're in has helped put that in perspective more and more for so many people on a global perspective, like the fact that we're able to do remote working. And now you're looking at jobs and you're saying, you're thinking about different things that maybe you would not have thought of when it comes to negotiation or terms that you're willing to work under. And the people are finally putting notice to what they're going on, especially our essential workers. Shout outs to all of you guys. And we're really saying it's I've been deeply into the Amazon Prime, and I know it was a book before, Brave New World. And, just the idea of, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but just the idea of like the conditioning and the 40 hours a week being normal, like that's insane when you really put it in perspective and think about it. You know what I mean? And we're restructuring our lives now in a way where we are able to put our health first. We're thinking about going for daily walks. We're thinking about what we're eating. We're normalizing thinking about our immune system, all those things to help us, thank God, hopefully make it through 2021 and beyond.
Right. That's really true. And I struggle with that because, I am, as an independent creator, and I know that probably a lot of your listeners can relate, we fund our own kind of projects, we fund what we're doing. And it's kind of like, how much do you participate? Like in LA, do I want to sit 2 hours in traffic to work 50 hours a week to pay down this bill to get into debt? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, how do you find the balance? And for me, it's just been to make sure, like this interview, like this time that we're spending together, this is a priority for me. Even though I work later on, it's making sure that I'm feeding, right, the legacy, the message. It's making sure that I'm participating in that so that I'm energized enough to go do what I have to do.
I love that. I love that, because that is like, we all can relate to that. We all go through it, especially when you're in that weird stage sometimes where it's just like, okay, can I quit yet? Can I do this? Like straight up, can I do this full time? Like, can I take this leap of faith? Is it time to like, watch how this seed grows? Like, and it's real thoughts, and it's vulnerability. It's vulnerability. And in my opinion, vulnerability is beautiful and it's scary, but it's worth it. When you look at people like Gandhi and all these successful people that we love, their best moments, when you really analyze it, were their vulnerable moments, right? So when you're vulnerable in a pure, like, not vanity, based, it definitely works in your favor. And I can see your books just really meaning a lot to people and pushing forward and really getting that message out there. So please do not stop what you're doing, Ross.
No,
Okay.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. And I mean, just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, this journey, when I started just writing, putting myself out there, people DM me, email me all the time. Oh yeah, the relationship with my dad, or I'm struggling with this. And so it's like, wow, if I had known that this was the answer earlier, I would have taken. Yeah, and it's really, and like you said about Gandhi and all these people, if you really look at their life, all of them, and even popular culture celebrities now, like Will Smith, they're all saying the same types of things. It's like, are we listening, and are we trusting that? And then what you said about seeds too, it's like, are you committed to watering the seed? Are you just going to leave it there? You plant it, but it needs to be watered, it needs to be tended in any way that you can. So it's really hard. And I'm going to keep going the best that I can, doing my thing and share my voice. And
So moving forward with your passion for music, right? You highlighted earlier, but going on live with Neo, nobody really understands sometimes, like when you be watching a celebrity that you're into on Instagram Live or whatever live, and you see that circle start turning and you got literally like 5 to 8 seconds to get your shit together, scream a little bit if you have to, and then like and pretend like you're normal, like you're not talking to Neo right now. So what was that moment like? Like what were the thoughts going through your mind? How did all that go down?
Yeah, so I mean, just like you said, so actually I was in the studio and me and my agent were talking, and we were talking about, yeah, the Neos and the Weekends of the world. And I was like, you know what, I should hit up so and so, just as like a joke, like, but a proper, not like a joke, but like, a nice tailored message that had some value exchange. And so, yeah, something professional. So I sent it, and then he responded, and I was like, see, now what we gonna do now when this man responds? Now this man has responded, and we out. And so it really just like came down to, hey, I like what you're doing. I think what you're doing is very unique with the whole author and the music thing. Keep going. And then, like you said, when the little circle started spinning in my mind, I was like, I'm gonna pretend that this isn't like someone's albums I can sing back and forth right now, and I'm just gonna try to have a decent conversation. It was really exciting though, because I mean, I look up to him.
One of my favorite projects from Neo. Oh my gosh, what is the name of the album? But it's the one with like Mirror, When You're Mad, all those tracks on it. And I remember like, Don't Hate Me, Neo. I burnt it off of LimeWire, and I'd have it on my CD.
LimeWire.
And I would be bumping it. Listen, that was a CD. Like, oh man, he was taking over. And still is, because his pen game is super strong. So congratulations to you. And I really am excited to see that go into fruition, and it will do in due time. You know what I mean? Because I know how it can be along your journey. Sometimes we meet like really huge people, but as you keep going on, they don't forget you. Just keep doing what you're doing. Be consistent. Don't worry. When they circle back, at least you'll be more prepared, or even at a higher level than where you were when you first interacted.
See, you already know. That's exactly, and I'm learning that. It's like, okay, yes. The thing is, you have that moment, just like you said, and do not stop. Keep going. Yeah, don't stop. Keep building your brand. And so that's what I intend to do. Exciting. And I hope to meet other idols. And then when you just personalize it, like his kid was coming in talking about like, daddy, it's like, dang. So he's just up there fathered out, like, it's crazy.
Yeah. And that's real spit. So when it comes to the things that help you to keep going and help you to keep building your brand and help you to keep being Ross Victory, what are some of those things that you're willing to share?
The thing, I think an important thing that keeps me going is, we touched a little bit at the beginning about grief. And so I'm sure there's one of your listeners who's lost someone they loved under difficult circumstances or surprise circumstances, or, a lot of different other ways. And I think what helps me is sometimes thinking about the people who I've lost, and the legacy and the name, and kind of like just being acutely aware that, our time's limited. Because I think sometimes when we participate in the traffic and the 40 hours per week and all these systems and stuff, we forget that, this is your time and you're on a time clock. So it's like being acutely aware of that, and then just trying to do my best and having people around me, if any, that support and share that same message. Because a lot of people find it hard to be vulnerable, right? A lot of, so it's like, how can I cherry pick my environment to keep that same energy and people who are challenging themselves and moving forward and committed to legacy? And there's not too many of them, but the ones that I do have, we can kind of move together.
I love that. My friend Killa, she hit the nail on the head in terms of knocking the vulnerability, and she brought it to light. And when she said it, my mind was like, oh. She's like, the reason for us, especially as melanated people, that I'm paraphrasing, but why it's kind of difficult for us to be vulnerable, or to have, like, even you spoke on the stages, if you even realized earlier that you kind of had to get through to even get to the stage where you're at therapy, or processing the fact of like paying someone to hear you out, right? She said It's like, because we were taught, like, our trauma locked it away. were taught to lock it away with our trauma, and vulnerability is unlocking that trauma. So we're literally reconditioning ourselves from what we were taught, and we're doing better. We're doing better. We're progressing, but these are things that, you know, just through accepting our past, we can move forward in our present. So we definitely all have work to do, all of us.
Absolutely. And I think as men, as Black men, because I got a chance to ask my dad before he passed away, like about the whole mental health. Like we got a chance to talk about it. And he said that he was just, so he went into the story of him not having a father and him doing the best, but also stubbornness. So he thought that he knew better than, again, what someone could someone could tell him, what the pastoral therapist could tell him. Why is he going to pay this money? He can figure it out. He's smart. He's well traveled. And so maybe it's letting go of our ego, or trying to keep our ego in check and say, you know what, I have a problem. I have an issue. It's okay. I need help. And so we were able to have that exchange. And so, like I said, when I look at my brother and my dad, it's like, how can I do better? And so this is me doing better. Yeah.
When it comes to your goals, you know what I mean? And moving forward and attaining to your goals, what are some of the steps that you kind of say to yourself, this is how I'm going to be able to attain this goal?
The steps to attain the goals is, so what I learned after writing my first book.
That's a huge goal. That's a
huge goal.
That's a huge goal.
2 years. Yeah, it took 2 years, but I learned some key gems. And the thing that I learned is kind of like what we're talking about, because with that process, I was shooting from the hip. I was spending a lot of money because, you know, it's the first time, you don't know what to expect. But what I learned is it's okay to ask people for help who know more than you. Like, what do you have to lose to connect with an editor or someone who's done books before and just chop it up with them? That's okay. It's okay to have an editor rip your stuff apart and say, like, how do I make it better? You know, it's okay to take breaks. It's okay. Writer's block is something that will pass. It's not the end of the world. And so those are the lessons. And so when it comes down to steps and goals, is to kind of like, who knows more than me? Who's done this before? First off, right? So do I have so most of the people in my network aren't Neo, but who has done more? Who is willing to get on the phone or email with me, be willing to ask and set a plan too. So like, if you could set some type of like, okay, in 2 weeks, I want to do XYZ photo shoot and have this many choices. Okay, that's a reasonable goal. And, you know, just set reasonable goals and ask someone who knows more, like, hey, does this look right? Am I going in the right direction? Yeah, and I've learned so much about publicity and book writing and all of that throughout this whole process. So yeah, step by step.
I love that. I love
little
that.
Pieces.
And seriously, all the little pieces eventually make the mountain, right? And people will always say, you do not want to be the smartest person in the room. You should be like, we're really trying to elevate. You're going to have to be uncomfortable. You're going to have to be vulnerable, right? Like, yes, at first I'm guilty of it too. I didn't take notice. I was just like, yeah, my friends. And I was slowly like, you know what I mean? But then when you're kind of the one always, I don't want to say knowing everything, but where is that going to lead the rest of us? So we got to put ourselves in position, regardless if people understand it now or later, and be in those rooms, have those conversations, take that leap of faith, press that request button, do whatever we got, because the worst that's going to happen is just a no. Why?
And but you know what? That I agree. We're on the same vibe with that. Yeah. But that is a hard thing to understand. Yes, the worst is no, but when you're facing like, oh, they may say no, it feels like life or death.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, but you're facts. It's all facts.
If you could say for that moment, one of the things that help you cross over that feeling, or not really cross over, because obviously we're acknowledging it, but not letting it overcome you where you're not following, you know, your dreams. What is one of those things?
You mean to face those no's?
Yeah. to take that risk to be like, yo, this may be a no. Like, I'll give you some time to think, but like, personally for me, like, I'm like, yo, my mom, the amount of shit my mother and I have gone through, both against each other or with each other, like,
Yeah.
she needs to be here to see me get these M's. Like, before you go,
Okay.
Ma, you gotta see me here to get these M's. Like, I've been telling you from I was young, telling you that it's gonna be worth it, telling you all of that. You have to see this with your 2 item before God take you away. That is where
Ooh,
that is
I love that.
definitely one for me. So
That's fire. I mean, that's all energy all day.
all
Yeah,
day.
wow. And for me, and you know, because I guess believe, or I've practiced a lot with the whole inner child situation, inner child healing. And for maybe some of your listeners don't know, it's like talking to your little self,
It's
trying to
real.
be in touch, yeah, with those dreams and goals. So whenever I see a picture of myself like 7 or 8 years old, it's like I try to get in that little kid's eyes, like, dang, what makes you happy? What do you want? What do you expect from the world? And so when I'm facing that big mountain, like you're saying, like, dang, do I want to put myself out there? I try to be like, who are you serving? Because if you're trying to serve that little kid, you better
Mm,
you better go up there and do
mm,
that, because this is for him. And so that
mm.
keeps me really, when I'm in that space, it almost makes it just a no-brainer. Like, yeah, you better go put that request, you better send that DM to whoever. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. So I'm having a lot of fun talking to Ross, guys. I'm definitely taking advantage of his time. So I'll ask you another staple question that we have here at
Yeah.
Downtown World. Don't waste no time with negativity. Now you have the 5 elements. You have spirit, earth, air, water. No. Spirit, fire, water, air, and fire. Did I say fire already?
You said fire. So
Sorry.
spirit, fire, water,
Water.
earth, air.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Five. Yeah.
Which element, thank you. Which element resonates with you the most, or you feel like represents you the most, Ross, and why? You're not tied down to one. It is an open question. There's no right or wrong. Just
Okay.
it's you.
Okay. So I definitely want to start with air. So no, let's start with earth. Earth. So also what I realized in the pandemic, just over these almost 20 months that we've been in this, which is crazy, it's almost been
Crazy.
2 years,
Crazy.
is the importance of going outside, the importance of being in nature, the importance of being at the beach. Or we have Sedona, Arizona right next door, which is the red rocks of Sedona, where it's just all red, and
Yeah.
kind of being in, yeah, God's creation and being reminded of the earth and touching the ground. And again, 5, 6 years ago, I was not like, I wasn't talking about tree hugging type of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But life it's really reminded me that this is important, just to be able to be out in the elements. And the second one would be air, the importance of breathing. And I mean,
Mm.
yeah, deep breaths. And I ask my mom sometime, I'm like, Mom, is all this really about drinking water, sleep, eating, and breathing? Like, is that what it really like comes down to? And low key, like, that's what it is. It's just breath work, clear air, fresh air. I mean, knowing when to take a break for air. I mean, it's all like air, you know,
I love that. I
symbolically and everything. Yeah.
I don't know if Jigga did this on purpose, but like 444, that is like the breath for me. 4 counts in,
Mm,
4 counts
yeah.
hold, 4 counts out. So those of you listening, Ross, that helps sometimes. Like I get like major anxiety before like even us interviewing or stuff like that, where it's just like I get nervous. My nervousness comes out in like sweaty palms, or like, the T-zone starts sweating. So 444 is something that definitely helps to and like get that somewhat under control. So I
That's
definitely
true.
agree with the breathing and asking what made you ask your mom that, if that's what it all comes down to, because that's a
Because
powerful
it's just,
question.
yeah, it's just like, I mean, when you sleep well, I mean, have you ever had some sleep and
I'm
you
queen
wake up?
sleep. Sleep me, okay? You ain't gotta convince me. Everybody want to take
Queen
naps?
sleep.
I will have a party. It will be a nap party. I am with you.
So queen sleep. So you already know, like when you wake up in the morning and you just had some good sleep, you're like, that's God. That's all God
Mm,
right there. That's
mm.
all God. It almost like wipes the plate
I'm
clean.
telling you.
So yeah, I was just like, I think a few times I had some good sleep or like remembered to hydrate throughout the day and felt good in my body. And I was like, is that all this is? Remembering to sleep, drink water, eat, and breathe. Like, wow. And how distracted have we come to where that
Mm,
sounds like, oh dang, we don't do that. You know, like how far have we like it's a
yeah.
mess, but
It's a
these
mess.
it's a mess. But these conversations, I
Help
think
to
it helps. It helps. It helps. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think I had some good sleep, and I was like, dang, that's if that's possible, then yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and I was, oh my gosh, I feel like, see, you say you're a nerd, but you're making me nerd out right now. So
Hey,
like, there was something I was reading about, basically, I'm forgetting the proper term, but somewhere between the hours of 10 to 12, if you are able to fall asleep between those hours, there's some it's not endorphins, but something that our body
Carmo,
releases only
some hormones.
throughout like that kind of time frame, and that is kind of what helps you, you, like you said, when you wake up in the morning after that good sleep, you feel like this feeling is like part of that. Oh, the name is escaping me, but research if you're bored. But there is a science to that, and I definitely do agree that sleep is healing. You know, I've really been being more. I won't say I was on a diet, but I've been being a lot more conscious of what I've been eating and consuming, and how I'm consuming it, or like, why do I feel like I want to consume this now? Because I definitely had recognized my emotional attachment to food, right? And through like doing that, it just brought a lot of realization that, you know, a lot of times you're not even hungry. You're just stressed. It's kind of like our phones. Like we just have this itch to just pick it up for no reason, but you're not really thinking or being conscious as to why we do that. What are some of those things that you feel
Mm.
like you kind of had to, I don't want to say break yourself out of bad habits, Ross, but like some of the things that you notice in your surroundings on your journey to success, on your journey to completing your goals, like you're like, these are some things I need to kind of and get out of the way
Yes.
so that I can
Yeah.
be focused.
Yeah. And I think, and this one's a little weird for me, but it was
It's
social
never weird with me.
media. It's social, but it's like social media is like, you know, as an entrepreneur yourself, and it's like we need it because we have to put ourselves out there, be visible, take advantage of the free medium. But it's like we can't be tied to it and overly pressed about what's going on. And so it's like,
Yes.
how do I find the balance and not just glued to it? So that for me,
Yes.
like just taking a step back, maybe even asking a friend, like, hey, can you post for me? Like, this is what, you
Yeah.
know, this is what I'm trying to say. Taking a step back from certain family members that have certain level of energy, you know,
Yeah.
I think that's important too, just to kind of say, you know what, I'm not going to separate, but just kind of put some space between me and the screen, or me and, you know, this
Yes.
person, to breathe.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. Um, shout outs to Tony Braxton.
Hey,
Shout outs to Tony and Babyface, of course. Um,
yes.
I want to know from you, what is like the most recent thing, or what did you eat today?
What did I eat today? Okay, so I woke up. Oh, this is about to be nerd. I can't even, it's not near me, but I have this no, it's pretty rough. So I have this hydration IV electrolyte packet that you add to water in the morning for like
Okay.
instant hydration. So, hey,
Okay.
okay. So I have my I have
Okay.
my thing of water, got my instant hydration, had some applesauce and English muffin.
You're so healthy. All right. All right. Ross
I
is.
mean, but I prepared. But see, I knew, I was like, you know what? I'm speaking to Kay Blair. I want to get some good sleep. I want to
Oh
be,
my
you know, so
God. Stop
no,
it.
yeah, I had
Thank
to
you.
prepare.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Thank you.
it all makes a difference. But yeah, that's what I had for breakfast. And that IV hydration packet,
The skin
Not
shows.
playing.
It shows.
It's not playing.
The skin is showing and it is glowing. It is
Right.
showing. Okay. You got it. You got it. You know, people be like, yes, I do this and that. I'm looking at your skin like, girl, you eat way too much red meat. You need to get some
that's
more water.
funny. Oh,
Come on, let's get to it. Alkaline that water. Let's go. Let's go. So
Yep.
I see it. I see it and it's good.
Those packets, they hit. And no, they give you like 3 to 4 times more than a thing of water can give you. And you can actually feel it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I just kind of want to go through a series of sentences with you, kind of. And if you could just complete the sentence.
Okay.
Don't feel pressured. It's nothing crazy, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Love is.
Love is air.
Kindness
Love
is important. Oh, sorry. My apologies. Keep going.
Oh, no, that's okay. I just had I feel like love is air. Love is kind. Love heals.
Mm-hmm. Kindness is important
because you never know who is who's on edge or who's on their last moment that you can help and save.
I bring value when
I bring value when I remind people that they are seen and that their story matters. And if I have some time, I'll listen.
And I am winning when
I'm winning when I stop worrying about what happens next and live in the present moment. I'm winning when I'm happy and dancing and writing and singing and living in my body.
negativity is
Bad for health.
Mm. Mm. I love it. I let it simmer. I let the the gravy simmer into the rice a little bit,
Yeah.
I love that.
I like
Wow.
that.
I love that a lot. Okay, so Ross, Victory, I want you to let everyone know where they can support you, where they can find you. And I've also been normalizing how you prefer to be approached/contacted.
Oh, for sure. So you can find me on Instagram, Ross Victory Select, or Ross Victory with the blue hat with the
The
blue
pinstripe hat.
background, right? Yeah. You can find me on Facebook, Ross Victory, Google, my website, Ross Victory. I'm running a Indiegogo campaign right now where this book that we talked a little bit about earlier, you can get this book and also a notebook. You know, if you have some ideas or thoughts or a story in you and you want to take your first step, this will help you do that. So that's going to go till till October 1st.
Is there audio version as well?
So I'm going to do some audio, and I'll probably do
that.
audio.
You have a good voice. Do it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And maybe a song or something on there too, like between the parts. So
do it.
Yeah,
do
audio.
it. I listen to some audiobook stuff, not to derail sometimes, and they do stuff like that, or they'll have the working sections. Obviously people will know to buy the book, or they should have the physical copy, but definitely you're not out of the norm with that. Do it.
Okay, yeah, audio coming soon. I want to do audio before the end of this year, so look out for that. But everything, I try to share everything on my social media. If it's business related, I try to be accessible. If it's business related, you can contact me through LinkedIn or through email, which is Ross Victory. Actually, I'll give a different email through email, which is booksandbangers@gmail.com. But just come as you are. I respond. I'm not one of those people leave you on scene. Like if the message makes sense and it's authentic,
Yeah,
then I
exactly.
engage. Yeah.
And you're not like T-Pain, you're checking that all request side as well.
That's bad. He had like years of people reaching out. That's sad. Yes, the extra box, the general box. Yeah. I go in there and the
Past the
request.
general box and the
Yeah.
request side. You gotta go in there. You never know. You never know.
Yes. Yes.
That was so funny. Okay. I want to say thank you so much, Ross Victory, for this conversation today. You brought such light to my day. And I really hope that everyone was as inspired as I was today by the words in your story and the vulnerability that you shared with us. I want to ask you you could just close out the show. You can end it, say whatever you want, leave with the people. And yeah.
Well, I want to thank you too for all the work that you do. So as I mentioned, I don't know if we were recording, but I've been following your account for a while, seeing your interviews, and I know negativity or like positivity is something that you all focus on, and so I really appreciate that, and that resonated with me. So you keep doing great at what you're doing, and yeah, I just want to encourage everyone listening out there, however far this goes, that as I mentioned, life is full of challenges. As you know, it seems like we can't get through certain stuff. But what I've learned, if it means anything, or maybe I'll ask you, are you aware sometimes when you take that step of vulnerability, things kind of open up and there's another layer. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it may seem like it's darkness, but then also too, are you participating in the process, even if it feels painful? And I know it's hard to hear, but I want to encourage you that I've been through it. A lot of people listening have been through it. And sometimes healing is on the other side of that big vulnerable step.
You love it. You guys heard it here. This Ross Victory, your girl Kay Blair, another episode of Downtown World. Don't waste no time with negativity. Love you all. Let's try to practice that. Let's be more vulnerable. Have a great day.
Downtown Kay.
Downtown. You about to go downtown.